Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to have everyone here today. We'd like to stand and sing our joy song, which is projected right there. So let's remember that. I want to see some smiles out there this morning. So happy to see everyone. Do we have any very first-time visitors who would like a visitor packet? Anyone? Okay. Oh. Okay. Our reader this morning is Kate Lear, and our guest musicians are Randy Walker and Lisa Mitchell. Kate?
Wisdom and choice. He that wavereth is like a wave of the sea. James.
Yeah, what she says.
Speak up, Kate.
The Chinese have an old saying, the flowers of tomorrow are the seeds of today. What will happen to you, your home, your work, your relations with others depends on the mental seeds you are planting this morning. Everything moves from mind into manifestation, from the invisible realm of thought and feeling into the visible world. Again, when the seed thought is right, the harvest will also be right. The farmer has to decide what will go into his fields, for whatever he selects will automatically be multiplied. If he remains undecided, however, if he refuses to act, the field will express his failure to make a decision. It will manifest as a field of weeds. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, God offers to every mind the choice between truth and repose. Take what you please. You cannot have both. What a challenge for me this is, and how tremendous can be my reward. I can take charge of my environment, of my body temple, and change anything, correct anything, heal anything, to conform to my heart's desires. But to be successful, and here is the determining factor, with no ifs or buts, I have to be alert to every moment to ensure that neutralizing negative thoughts gains entry into my secret place. I know that I can do all things through Christ, my Father within.
Thank you, Kate. We heard that loud and clear. I couldn't resist. Okay. So now we're going to stand and sing our first hymn, which will be number 6, How Great Thou Art. And we will do verses 1 and 2. Number 6, How Great Thou Art.
I hear the rolling thunder,
one of the most beautiful praise songs ever written. It's really beautiful. Thank you, Rick. That was a flowery rendition. Beautiful, thank you.
Inspiring.
Yeah, well, flowery, inspiring, yes. but it had lots of like movement in it, and it was fabulous. Thank you very much. It was beautiful. Okay, so I've chosen not to do a Bible verse today. And so we'll read our statement of being, which is in your order of service, and read it together. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God, and am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Randy.
We're glad to be back with you this morning. Our first song is called Christ Above Me. Christ above me, Christ beside me, Christ within me, ever guiding, Christ behind me, Christ before, Christ my love, my life, my Lord. Bread of life from heaven, lover of my soul, peace of God so ever present, I surrender my control to Christ above me, Christ beside me, Christ within me, ever guiding, Christ behind me, Christ before, Christ my love, my life, my Lord. Mercy everlasting, tenderness divine, Word of God so ever healing, I surrender heart and mind to Christ above me, Christ beside me, Christ within me, ever guiding, Christ behind me, Christ before, Christ my love, my life, my Lord.
Did you write that, Randy?
We did not write that.
It's beautiful, thank you. I invite the usher to bring up the prayer box. Make prayers in there. If you need special prayers for people, you can fill out the form in the back and put it in the box, and we pray for those people for 30 days, our prayer circle. So now is our time for getting quiet. Have a little meditation. So I invite you to close your eyes. Be still for just a few moments. Release all your burdens and your joys. Just let it all go. And be right here, right now. Let's breathe in and breathe out. Audible sigh. Just let it go. Let's do it again. Just let it all go. This kind of breathing signals the body and the mind that you are ready to settle, ready to listen, and be still. Let each one of us know that as we hear these words that apply to us sitting here right now, that they also are words for the people that are on our prayer list, and also for the people all over the planet, especially in different parts of the United States right now, who are suffering. So let us hold all in prayer. Father, you are closer than my breath, closer than my hands or my feet. You are the all-knowing intelligence in all the universes, both known and unknown to us. You are the divine love, which has supplied the earth with everything it needs to support life abundantly. You have filled the heavens with your glory and the oceans with your rhythms. I acknowledge your presence in all things, as all things. You always know what I need before I even begin to formulate it in my own mind. For it is your good pleasure to provide all for each of us. In this moment, I seek nothing. I only seek your grace, your benediction, the gift of your very self. Let the peace that passeth understanding descend upon me as I sit here in contemplation of your goodness. Your peace is an inner peace, an inner grace, inner joy, inner harmony. I know that I am always safe and protected and secure when I remember and realize the truth that there is only one power, one presence, and that is God, the good, omnipotent. Father, enfold and envelop me, encircle me with your love. May the Christ fill my soul, my body, my being. In quietness and in confidence shall be my strength, because the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. And so it is. And while we are still, let us pray together the way Jesus taught his disciples. Let us say together, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed is thy name. Thy kingdom is come, thy will is done, on earth as it is in heaven. Thou givest us this day our daily bread. Thou forgivest us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Thou leadest us not into temptation, but dost deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Sometimes during the week, a lot of us don't have time for that quietness with no dogs barking. Anybody got dogs barking? Yes, lots of people have dogs barking. So I really like that the time on Sunday when we do our meditations. It's special. So today's lesson is called When We Stand on Shaky Ground. Albert Einstein wrote this: A human being is a part of the whole called by us the universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts, and his feelings as something separate from the rest. It is a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and affection for the few people who are nearest us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening the circle of understanding and compassion to embrace all creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. Here at Valley Community, we have heard, whether we have come to our own realization of it or not, that we are individualized expressions of God. That's in our statement of being that we just said. That means that we can express the wisdom, the love, the peace, and the understanding of God. It is naturally a part of us. It only takes our recognition of it to make that happen, in order to make it manifest in our lives. So, I say, what is stopping this wonderful, liberating realization? Well, I'm going to call it ego. Edging God out. E-G-O. That's a famous New Thought way to look at the word ego. We have the potential to fly free, but we mysteriously prefer this little prison called ego. When we forget about God, about our true identity, and come to depend on that little s self, we will never feel the security we so desperately seek. I think we are not very good at coping with an unpredictable world. As Einstein points out, our sense of separation from everyone and everything else puts us in a prison of our own making. Nobody puts us there, from which escape seems a little bit too scary sometimes. So what are we afraid of? It is really hard for us to let go and trust that the very next thing we need to do, the very next person we need to speak to, and the very next place we need to be is going to just be there. We are not used to living by grace. We do not trust. It says in Isaiah, "Fear not, for I am with thee." When we run from the shaky ground of our experiences, we are further weakened and we experience suffering. So instead of running, why don't we just stop? Get to know what's going on in our lives right this minute and treat ourselves with love and tenderness, remembering what God knows about us. We need to explore the strategies and the beliefs that we have used to build those walls around ourselves and around others that keep others separate. We must learn to observe ourselves without judgment, being open and receptive to whatever is happening in the moment. And I would say we're probably not very good at that. So how do we widen the cracks in the walls that we have set up? Well, a certain Buddhist teaching comes to mind that might be helpful. I learned these ideas from Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist nun. This teaching says that there are 3 ways that we use every single day to keep this illusion of security alive in our life. And we should just become aware of these strategies that we use to seek comfort in an ever-changing world, which actually doesn't really ease our fears. Sometimes it actually escalates them. So the first deals with a wonderful New Thought concept and a divine science concept of looking to outer appearances to make us feel safe and secure. And yet we all know for a fact that everything is in process. Everything is ebbing and flowing. Everything changes from moment to moment. It is said that the only thing in life that is permanent is what? Change. Well, nobody wants to hear that. You don't have to be a mystic, actually, to understand this basic concept of human existence. We actually resist this basic fact in our personal lives, and we expend a lot of emotional energy denying it. We want permanence. We want security. But somehow it seems like we're looking for it in all the wrong places. All you have to do is look at the news. So what do you do when you feel anxious, unsettled, if you feel bored or lonely? Do you eat? Do you exercise? Do you watch TV? Do you talk on the phone? Do you surf the net? What do you do to fill up that space when you are uncomfortable? And that's actually a feeling of somehow some insecurity that's going on. We might not even recognize it actually at the time. But we know intuitively that no matter how much we engage our senses in these activities in the outer, they will not ever bring lasting security because they're going to change. In fact, meditating on the objects of the senses and then engaging ourselves actually only makes matters worse. And we feel either no relief or temporary relief. But the interesting thing about it is that even the promise of temporary relief from some emotional suffering or anything that we may have is actually sensationally alluring and seductive. So when we find ourselves in a scratchy place, we are actually just habituated to reaching for that familiar thing which gives us relief. if we can pay attention to when this happens without judging any of it, we find that we may be able to stop hurting ourselves. When we learn to live our lives without judging ourselves, then we can truly stop judging others. This is a very important realization. We don't like it when we see a wrinkle. We don't like it when our bodies begin to change. We don't like it when we have to change jobs. That's kind of scary. We don't like it when somebody new sits in the desk next to us because we're not used to them being in that space. We don't like it when there's a new boss. I mean, there's so many things that upset that balance that we have that makes us feel secure. Well, the word of advice is just relax wholeheartedly into change because it is not going anywhere. We need to set ourselves free from this limited way of relating to the events in our lives. And from a spiritual perspective, what we'd like to do is do what Emmett Fox says. It's called golden keying, which means if you've got an issue or a problem, something going on over there, stop thinking about it, stop giving energy to it, and think about God instead. Now, if you don't know anything about God, it's okay, because the first thing you can do is just say what you're grateful for. Because counting our gratefulnesses, thinking about them, meditating on what we're grateful for in our life instantly changes the energy about where we are in the moment. So we just want to let go of that anxiety in any way that we can. Now the Dalai Lama tells a really funny story about being a youngster in Tibet. Of course, he was living in the palace because he was selected as the Dalai Lama when he was very young. He was watching the mice. He wanted to catch one. But apparently the palace mice were very, very smart. Now, of course, they would set the traps all over the palace, and he would just sit and watch the traps. He didn't want to kill anything, of course. He just wanted to see what was happening with these mice. He never saw a mouse caught in a trap. All those years as a youngster, he watched those traps, and not one mouse was ever caught that he could see. And so he pondered this, and he said he learned a very great lesson from watching the mice, or for not watching them because they weren't there, was that they decided to forego the short-term pleasure of eating the cheese or the peanut butter. I don't know if the monks eat peanut butter or not in Tibet. Probably not. Cheese? I don't know. So but this is his analogy, not mine. He says cheese. Well, we all know that mice really love peanut butter too. They were willing to forego the pleasure, the instantaneous pleasure of that little piece of cheese for the long-term pleasure of living. The Dalai Lama encourages us to follow this same line of thinking. When we get into something that we think we need to do right this second, sometimes we just need to kind of like go, no, I don't think I'll do that right now. So the second strategy is that we put up walls of separation by the words that we use. Because when we speak and we talk, people can understand what our belief system is as soon as we open our mouth. We use our belief systems actually to give us the illusion of security also. Our beliefs can make us narrow-minded, prejudiced, and thus encourages separation. So how do we judge people who actually view the world differently from ourselves? If we find ourselves expressing righteous indignation, it's a sign that we are building our personal walls higher and thicker than ever. So if we maintain these fixed beliefs about who we are as well as who others are, there's just no room for growth or change. When we take ourselves way too seriously, who takes themselves way too seriously in here? Anybody? Oh, people are raising their hands. Okay. So Pema Chodron says, so when we take ourselves too seriously and we adopt an air of self-importance, we become too limited and our world becomes so narrow there's no room for growth. So we need to relax. We need to relax out there. Our world becomes actually hard and inflexible, and we become actually bored with ourselves and the world that we've created. And that can even become harmful. Pema Chodron tells us in her book, Places That Scare You, a story about a man whose son went off to war, and he heard that his son had been killed. And he grieved so bad, he locked himself up in his little hut in his village, and he refusing even the kindness and support and love of the villagers around him. And after 3 weeks, his son actually came walking into the village, and everybody was so happy, and they surrounded him, and they took him to his father's house, and he banged on the door and said, Father, Father, I'm alive, I was not killed, I've returned. And his father would not come to the door. He said, Go away and leave me to grieve. I know my son is gone forever, and you cannot deceive me with your lies. So, can we see ourselves anywhere in that story? That we think we just know how everything is all the time? If we're so certain about our beliefs, we can't move past them. We can't actually get good vision. If another version of reality actually comes and knocks on our door, we may not be able to get up an answer because we just know everything. Won't we be surprised when we finally get up, open the door, and we find out we are not in Kansas anymore? There must not be any Dorothy Gale of Kansas fans out there. I love to say that line. We're not in Kansas anymore. It means the whole reality has changed. It is not the same. The third strategy involves using special states of mind to avoid our uneasiness. And I'm sure none of you have ever done any of these things. Falling in love, the exhilaration of sports, drugs of all kinds, and even spiritual practices can put us into an addictive, altered state of consciousness, which breaks us free from ordinary life. If we are not here to just live our life, why are we even here? There's nothing inherently wrong with any of those peak experiences. In fact, they're certainly wonderful. But there's an addictive quality that makes them troublesome, because we always want more in an attempt to keep our life at bay. If we cling to these peak experiences, it is said, they will actually hinder us in the long run. We must simply incorporate them into our everyday lives and move on, resisting the urge to just want to do it again and again and again. The story of Don Juan comes to mind. As soon as the glow of the love faded, he moved on to someone else because it was getting high. And it needed it more and more and more. So it's okay to fall in love. It's wonderful. But you don't have to be a serial fall-in lover. Right? I just made that up. I didn't write that down. I just made it up just now. Okay, so how much time do you spend protecting the illusion of your personal territory? Wouldn't it just be a relief to just let it all go? To just surrender to what's happening in the moment. Be alive to what's occurring. And be okay with it. Love it. Look at it. Feel it. Don't run away from it. Don't run away from the itchiness. We all have little itchy, scratchy places in our lives. Stuff that we don't want to think about, stuff we don't want to deal with. But it's just temporary anyway. You can move past it. It'd be so wonderful just to let it all go. Make a choice to let it go. Our suffering about all that stuff comes when we mistake the temporary for the permanent. When we begin to explore our inner life, cracks begin to appear in that wall that we have erected to keep other out. We can then begin to identify ourselves with other, as the elephants and the dolphins do. It is said that the elephants and the dolphins actually identify all in their species the same as self. They don't consider themselves separate. We can decide to surrender to God's wonderful grace, that gift. We can choose to block the ego strategies by allowing the wonderful flow of God's grace into our lives. Let it pour into those cracks, those little tiny cracks, and make it get bigger and bigger. By allowing ourselves to be open and receptive, the cracks widen, and finally the wall between self and other is dissolved. Just think what a wonderful world it would be. We begin this process by showing up in our life, paying attention, and by self-correction. And we can self-correct just by being aware of our behavior and about how we're feeling. We can also do that from a spiritual platform through meditation, prayer, study, and by associating with like-minded people. Being in tune, being in the flow, being present with what is happening, not wanting to be somewhere else, being here right now is all possible if we stop reaching for everything out there to relieve the itchiness of the moment. If we want to free ourselves from the prison of this illusion, as Einstein admonishes us to do, we must develop compassion for self and for others. And we know it all starts right here. So self-love, self-compassion is the first thing we must do. Because when we know how to do that, it's so much easier to do it with and for other people. And for some that may feel like a really selfish idea, but it's not at all. We must let God, the God within, be the same as the God without. We do not want to edge God out. We want to let God be God in us, as Meister Eckhart would say. If we realize freedom as a part of our being by divine right of sonship, no man can take any part of your life from you, which includes your physical, your mental, and your spiritual security. No person can violate the freedom of the Christhood. Living life from the inside out, not from the outside in, tears down those walls of separation, because we are all one in Christ. If we can attain this mind, we will be liberated from our ego, and we will be free to live life on this planet the way we're actually meant to live it, which is in joy and peace and understanding, with all, including ourselves and everyone outside of ourselves. Let's get quiet for just a moment. And close your eyes if you want to. Whenever I am on shaky ground, I do not run from it. I sit with it, and I feel what I am feeling. I do not push it away. Instead, I choose to let God be God in me. I choose to remember what the Christ of my being says to me always. My love I give you, my peace I give you, my freedom I give you, my health I give you, my wealth I give you. Whatsoever things you desire, when you pray, believe that you receive them. I choose to believe that safety, security, freedom, and happiness are mine through Christ who strengthens me. And so it is.
Across the Universe is a famous song written by John Lennon, and the line Jai Guru Deva has many interpretations, and one interpretation of it is that it means hail to the divine teacher.
Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither while they pass, they slip away across the universe. Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through my open mind, possessing and caressing me. Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's gonna change my world. 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 Images of broken light which stands before me like a million eyes. They call me on and on across the universe. Thoughts meander like a restless wind inside a letterbox. They tumble blindly as they make their way across the universe. Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's gonna change my world. 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 Sounds of laughter, shades of life are ringing through my open views, inciting and inviting me. Limitless, undying love which shines around me like a million suns. It calls me on and on across the universe. Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's gonna change my world. 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 Jai Guru Deva, Jai Guru Deva, Jai Guru Deva, Jai Guru Deva Om.
Thank you. So now is the time in our service when we bless our gifts. You hold your gift in your hand, and we'll say the blessing of the gifts, which is in the order of service. Today, I acknowledge God, omnipresent, as the source of all good, as the source of my good. With this acknowledgement, I accept His will, which is abundance in every aspect of my life. I release all thoughts of lack and limitation, and I am open and receptive to the increased flow of abundance to me right now. I joyfully accept the gifts of life and give freely of the special gift that I am. Through me, God, omnipresent, blesses and multiplies this gift for all. Thank you to God. I have our prayer basket here. We have names. Put names in this basket every week for us to keep others in mind who may be suffering or in pain. And if you would like to take a name out of the basket and you're saying your prayers during the week, if you would also pray for people, I just put initials there so you don't really know who they are. But the great thing is that God knows who they are, so you don't have to put the names down. Pass it down. Jan, announcements.
Good morning. First off, I want to thank everybody that came out last night to hear Dr. Ahmed. It was wonderful. We got people that don't know a lot about Islam, which I did not. We learned a lot last night. So I encourage the people that were not here last night. We will have it on the website probably middle of the week. I'll get tomorrow and put it on there. So you can take a chance and take an opportunity to get on there and listen to that. It was very, very informative and really enjoyed it. So we may even have him back again. So tomorrow night, Monday night's class, during the month of July, we're watching videos and then we're discussing them. And then we're going to take the month of August off. Is that correct, ma'am? Okay. Tomorrow night we're watching What the Bleep Do We Know? So some of us have not seen that, some of us have, but we were going to watch it. Everybody is welcome to come. It's been at 6:30 tomorrow night. Wednesday nights we continue to have our meeting at Mill Mountain Coffee. We always have a lot of fun there, don't we, Jerry? And we started out to be like an hour thing, and sometimes I don't get home to 10:30, so it's like But we have a good time. Let's see, this Tuesday night, which is just right here, we're having dinner out at Ichabod's, which is across the street. So I'll need to know by tomorrow afternoon who's going, because I need to call and make reservations. So it'll be Tuesday night, 6:30, Ichabod's. Jenny Wise is teaching a Reiki class this Saturday morning, actually from 9, I think it's from 9 to 4. If you're interested in taking that class, I've got Jenny's number. You can give her a call and talk to her about that. Potluck is next Sunday after church. This week's flowers are sponsored by Cynthia and Laurel. Happy birthday, Rick. And we appreciate all the visitors here today. I'm glad to have Emily here, Miss UVA graduate. We're glad to have you here. And Nancy's daughter, which is always a pleasure to see her. And so thank you for being here. And the other visitors that I have not met yet, but thank you for being here. And I think Rick has something he wants to say.
Thank you for the flowers. Please take some and enjoy it. Kevin, would you join me, please? Kevin? You know my daughter Emily. You know that she is a recent graduate.
She looks afraid, Rick.
Emily is preparing to travel abroad to Japan to teach. She's leaving in August. She has an August contract. I just learned as well that her boyfriend Kevin, who's with us today, is leaving a few months following her departure for Japan. I wonder why. I'd like to ask if you would join me in a prayer of a blessing for these two. Prayer of community blessing. If you'd raise your hand in blessing for these two, offer a prayer. Father God, Mother God, our beloved, we ask your blessing being with Emily and Kevin as they prepare to go forth and take their gifts into the world to serve you. We ask that you be with them, that you illuminate their paths, that you inspire them, bless them, protect them, and if it is your will, bring them back to us safely at your appointed time and your appointed way. Thank you in advance for this prayer, for this blessing. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rick. Call you Pastor Rick. Okay, we would stand when you are able, and we will sing hymn number 43, Here I Am, Lord, verses 1, 2, and 3.